You're brushing your teeth one evening at the end of a regular day, not a hard day, an ordinary Tuesday. The tap is running, the toothpaste is mint. And in the back of your mind, while your hand moves the brush in a small circle on your upper molars, you are 12 paragraphs deep into a text you're drafting to someone who hasn't spoken to you in 19 months. The text is perfect. It is fair. It is reasoned. It concedes nothing. It leaves no wound unexposed. It explains, paragraph by paragraph, exactly why they were wrong that night at the kitchen counter, and also wrong that Saturday in the car, and also wrong about your mother, and also wrong about the shirts, and also wrong about the friends, and also wrong about everything they ever said about the way you laugh out loud at the wrong moment of the movie. You rinse, you spit, you look at yourself in the mirror. You do not send the text. You never send the text. You have not sent a single one of these texts in 19 months. You just write them, in the dark, in your own head, in the small hours of your own brain. And you win them, every single time, and you never even know you've done it. That is the war nobody told you about. The war that didn't end when you left. And there is a real, honest human reason it kept going inside you long after they stopped showing up. And once you see it, the war inside your chest will finally lose its last battle. Your eyes are on this video for a reason. Subscribe now, and I will show you what you've been winning alone for all this time, and why you can finally let yourself stop winning. Here is the part you have never said out loud to anyone. After the breakup, after the move, after you changed your number and started sleeping on the correct side of the bed, you kept playing the conversations in your head. Not the cute ones. The cruel ones. The ones where they said the thing that made your stomach drop a full inch. The ones where they shifted your whole week into a tailspin with a single sentence in passing at the breakfast counter. The ones where you, in real life, did not have the right answer. The ones where they got away with it. You replay them on the bus. You replay them in the shower. You replay them at your desk at work when you're supposed to be answering an email to a vendor. And in the replay, you have the right answer. In the replay, the sentences come out of your mouth in the exact order, in the exact tone, in the exact ratio of grief to firmness to finality. In the replay, your mother sits in the next room and nods. In the replay, your best friend texts you after and says, "You said the exact right thing." In the replay, they flinch. In the replay, for once, they flinch. You win every version of it. You win in the shower. You win on the bus. You win while you're cutting onions for dinner. You win while you're driving to your sister's house. You win so many times in so many rooms of your own life that the winning itself has become part of your daily mental weather. A thing that happens. A thing you're aware of somewhere, even when the win is not at the front of your mind. An ambient hum of victory that never gets to deliver the trophy because there is no one on the other end to receive it. Save this video. You will want to watch it again the first time you catch yourself winning an argument against someone who is not at the keyboard, because the next part of this truth will explain why the hum has been there at all. Most people don't name it as a war. They just describe themselves as someone who thinks a lot. They describe themselves as someone who replays a lot. They describe themselves as someone who has trouble letting go. They use the gentle language because the gentle language makes it sound manageable, and the gentle language makes it sound like a small thing. And the small thing is actually a full-time job you have been running in your own head for months that nobody on the outside ever sees you doing. The job looks like this. You wake up. You go about the morning. You encounter an old memory. The memory has them in it. The memory has a moment where they said something unfair. The memory has a moment where you did not, at the time, have the response. The memory lands in your chest like a small drop of cold water, and the drop starts the old machinery running. And the old machinery is you, drafting the perfect response, inside a meeting that nobody else in the meeting knows is happening, while your actual face is sitting politely on a Tuesday afternoon conference call about supply chains. You are not crazy. You are running an underground operation. You have been running the underground operation for a year. The operation costs you hours every week. The operation never sends anything to the outside world. The operation has only one employee. The employee is you. You are your own boss and your own main opponent and your own sole victory audience For an argument that ended 2 years ago in a kitchen that is now occupied by someone else. That is a strange job. And you have been holding it down with a strange kind of discipline, and nobody around you has any idea that you've been doing it. And the cost of doing it alone, in silence, for this long, is something we are going to name right now, kindly, so you can stop. Turn on notifications. Truth does not wait for anyone, and the next layer of this is the one that explains who you were really fighting in the mirror. Here is the part most people never say to themselves because it's too tender to look at directly. The war in your head was not really a war with them. They were not at the keyboard. They had stopped showing up for the war long before you did. They were probably on their 3rd new relationship by the time you were still drafting your 10th replay. They were probably already telling the new person about you in a shorthand that left out almost everything important, and the shorthand made them sound reasonable and made you sound dramatic, even though the actual footage would have made the room go quiet. So, if they had already stopped showing up to the war, who have you been fighting? The honest answer is, you have been fighting the version of yourself that left, the version of yourself that did not say the perfect thing in the moment. The version of yourself that cried in front of them twice in a month. The version of yourself that packed the wrong suitcase the wrong day. The version of yourself that sent the wrong text at midnight and did not realize until much later that it was the wrong text, and that by the time you realized it, the wrong text had already done its worst work. You were not really trying to win against them. You were trying to win against her, the you that left. The you that was smaller at the moment of leaving than you are now. The you that they had time to reshape, even briefly, into a version that would leave without the perfect closing line. You have been trying to give her the perfect closing line, retroactively for a year. You have been, in the quiet hours of your own mind, remothering her, refathering her, rewitnessing her, standing in front of her and saying, in the small rehearsal rooms of your skull, you did fine. You did fine, baby. You did the best you could. You did not owe them the perfect line. You did not owe them the closing argument. You did not owe them a courtroom speech on the way out the door. You were the one who needed the closing argument. You were the one who needed the speech. You needed to be told, by a version of yourself that has now lived another year of life, that you did fine without it, that you did in fact extraordinarily well without it, that they did not deserve the perfect line, even on the way out, that the perfect line was for someone who was listening. They were not listening. They have never, in any version of any conversation, been listening. Bookmark this video. You will want to watch it again the next time you realize, halfway through your own internal victory draft, that nobody is receiving it on the other side. Now let me name what this war has actually cost you, because the cost has been real. The cost is not dramatic. The cost is small, and the small is what adds up. The cost is hours, hundreds of hours, maybe thousands, over the last 18 months. Hours where you were in the shower, but not in the shower. Hours where you were driving, but not driving. Hours where you were at the dinner table with a friend, but not at the dinner table. Hours of your own consciousness spent in a room in your head, where you were sitting across from someone who was not there, making them hear things they would never hear, watching them react in ways they would never react. Hundreds of hours of your one short life spent on a stage, where the only audience was also the only actor. The cost is sleep. Hundreds of nights where you lay on your own mattress, beside your own pillow, in your own sheets, and your mind would not stop running the same courtroom, the same opening statement, the same witness testimony, the same closing argument, night after night, your mind running the same tape, the same lines, the same imagined flinch on the other side of the room. Nights that started at 10 and ended at 2 in the morning, with you exhausted in your own body and dying to stop but unable to put down the brief. The cost is friendships. Friendships that drifted because you kept the war inside, and the inside got so full that you could not make space for what was actually in front of you. The friend across the table, the niece in the next room, the barista who has been remembering your name for months. The cost of the war was the world. The world kept coming back and you kept turning your head back to the courtroom to check one more witness. The cost is appetite. Appetite for your own life. Appetite for your own bed. Appetite for your own Sunday morning. Appetite for anything that did not include somehow on the side in the small print, the kitchen conversation of 2 years ago. That is the cost. That is what the war took. That is what you will start to recover slowly, only when you finally let the last imagined courtroom close. Share this with someone who is still holding the perfect closing line in their own pocket 2 years later, waiting for a moment to deliver it. They will hear themselves in your words for the first time. Here is what I want you to understand about the war. The war was not real. The war was never a war that could be won. You cannot win a war against someone who has already forfeited. You cannot win a war against a person who is not even aware there is a war. You cannot win a war in a courtroom the other person has never entered. The war was, from the first morning you drafted the perfect text in the shower, a war fought entirely inside your own head. And wars that are fought entirely inside one's own head have a particular property. They cannot end because there is nothing outside the head that can stop them. They cannot end because the enemy is also inside the head. They cannot end because the victory conditions depend on the other person flinching, and the other person cannot flinch if the other person is not in the room. That is the grim joke of the war. You cannot win, you cannot lose, you can only keep playing. And the only way to stop playing is to notice that you are the only one on the court. There is no opponent, there is no galley, there is no jury, there is no judge. There is you in a room you built for yourself, giving speeches, hearing applause from chairs you set up for an audience that never arrived. Stop setting up the chairs. That is the small, brave act that ends the war. Comment your thoughts below. I read every single one. And every time you write, in the comments, something like, "I caught myself drafting that text in my own head again today," you are giving someone else the same permission to notice their own draft. Let me tell you about the morning the chairs came down. You will not be looking for the morning. You will not set an alarm for the morning. You will not mark it on a calendar. The morning will arrive the way most real things arrive. You will be doing something ordinary. You will be walking your dog, or making a coffee, or sitting with your own legs crossed in a chair at a Saturday morning farmer's market. And you will notice, halfway through the farmer's market, that you have not been thinking about them. Not for 10 minutes, not for 30 minutes, not for the whole Saturday. Just, the head is clear, the morning is clear. The tomatoes at the third stand are just tomatoes. The friend who came along is just the friend. The conversation is about the weather and the apples and the small ordinary politics of which neighbor is going to bring the car to which pickup. There is no courtroom in your chest. There is no opening statement. There is no closing argument. There is just you, standing in the sun, holding a paper bag of peaches your friend picked out for you. That is the morning. That is the morning the chairs came down. And you will not celebrate it, because celebrating it would interrupt it. You will simply notice. You will notice in the way you notice the color of the sky on a quiet afternoon, as something that is just true, as something that is just the weather of your own brain. And after the notice, you will keep walking. You will keep walking through the farmer's market. You will keep listening to your friend. You will keep buying tomatoes. The morning will continue to be a morning. The courtroom will not return, not because you closed it, but because you noticed it wasn't open, and the noticing was enough. That is the strange grace of the war ending. The war does not end with a verdict. The war ends with a tomato. Save this video for the morning you notice the tomato. That morning is on its way. Now let me say something about what you will do with the hours once they come back, because the hours will come back, and the hours will need a place to go. When the courtroom finally closes, the first thing you will notice is the silence. The silence will be strange. You will sit in your own kitchen on a Sunday morning and the silence will feel like a room that just emptied. Not because the silence is bad, because the silence is new. Because the silence is the kind of silence that arrives after a long season of background noise has stopped. Like living next to a train track for years and then moving to a quieter street. And the first night in the quieter street is louder than the train was. You will be tempted to fill the silence. You will be tempted to dial up the volume on something. A podcast, a song, a long phone call with your sister, a trip to the store that doesn't really need to happen, anything to put a soundtrack where the courtroom used to be. Let the silence stay. Let the silence sit at the table with you for a whole Sunday morning. Let the silence be the third person in the room. Sit with the silence long enough to feel it as a companion instead of a vacancy. The silence is not a vacancy. The silence is a release. The silence is the sound of the chairs being folded up and put back against the wall. The silence is the sound of the door finally being padlocked from the inside, by you, with the key in your own pocket. Pin this to the top of your screen. The next part is the one that explains what fills the kitchen when the silence has been there long enough to feel like a guest instead of a stranger. Here is the quiet, ordinary trick that the silence sets up. The silence sets up appetite. Real appetite. Appetite for your own life. Not the appetite you had in the war, which was the appetite for the perfect line. The appetite you had in the war was a courtroom appetite, a verbal appetite, a hunger to finally be heard by someone who was not in the room. That hunger is over. That hunger has been fed the last crumb of itself. The new appetite is gentler. The new appetite is for the small. The new appetite is for the taste of the peach your friend picked out for you at the farmer's market this morning. The new appetite is for the sound of your own kitchen with the window open on a Sunday morning in May. The new appetite is for the kind of conversation that does not need to win. The new appetite will not arrive all at once. The new appetite will arrive slowly in small, distinct moments. The morning you wake up early and want to go for a walk, not because you are avoiding anything, just because it is a beautiful morning and walking is what you want to do. The afternoon you sit in a coffee shop for 3 hours and read a book you have been meaning to read, and you do not check your phone even once. The evening you cook something for yourself that has actual effort in it, and you eat it at your own table, alone, with the lights low, and you taste every bite. Those moments are not dramatic. Those moments are not Instagram-friendly. Those moments are the slow drip of life coming back into the room, the way water comes back into a garden after a long drought. Slowly, without announcement. The soil soaks it up before you even realize the surface is wet again. Bookmark this video for the moment your own kitchen starts to feel like home again. That moment is small. That moment is real. That moment is enough. Now let me talk about the people who will quietly get the version of you that the war was costing them. Because the war was not only costing you, the war was costing them too. The friend who sat across from you at the table while you were replaying. The friend who kept trying to invite you to brunch and you kept canceling. The friend who started asking shorter questions because the long questions were getting too long to ask. The coworker who used to drop by your desk for 10 minutes of nothing and who now drops by less because the 10 minutes became 45, and 45 is too much for a Tuesday. The war was costing them the longer version of you. The version that shows up fully. The version that listens without having a side conversation going in the head. The version that can hear about someone else's small life with attention, with patience, with the quiet generosity that people are owed when they share something about their day. That version of you is on its way back. That version of you is already starting to show up. That version of you will sit across from a friend on a quiet Sunday morning and listen, really listen, to the story about the friend's mother and the kitchen renovation and the small disagreement with the brother-in-law about the dog. And you will not be running any other story in the back of your head while you listen. And the friend will feel the difference, even if they cannot name what has changed. The friend will feel the difference the way people feel a change in air pressure before the rain. Subtle. Welcome. Real. You will start to give more of yourself to the small conversations. More of yourself to the long phone calls. More of yourself to the long drives with the windows down and the music slightly too loud. More of yourself to the long, laughing dinners on a Friday night with 2 friends and a bottle of wine that you share without anyone monitoring how much each of you drank. You will feel the version of you that the war was costing them come back like warmth returning to a hand after the cold has passed. Slowly, evenly, through all 5 fingers at once. Comment your thoughts below and tell me, when you can, who you've started to give the longer version of you back to. Stay connected. More truth is coming your way, and the next part is the one that explains the new thing you can do with all that returned attention. Here is the new thing you can do with the attention. The new thing is small enough that you will almost miss it. The new thing is this. You can, finally, listen. You can listen to your own mother telling you the same story she has told you 3 times this year, and you can listen, fully, all the way through, without trying to interrupt with a single judgment, or a single piece of advice, or a single comparison to something you read on the internet. You can just listen. You can let her tell the story the way she wants to tell the story. You can let the story be the story. You can let her be the mother. You can listen to your friend tell you about a problem at work that you have heard before, and you can listen fully without trying to fix it. You can let the friend be the friend. You can let the problem be the problem. You can let the friend process out loud beside you without turning the out loud into a project. You can listen to your own body, finally, the way the body has been trying to be heard. You can listen to the breath that wants to be slower. You can listen to the chest that wants to be wider. You can listen to the shoulders that want to drop 1 more inch. You can listen to the stomach that has been trying to tell you for months when it's hungry and when it's tired. This is the new thing. The new thing is not a victory. The new thing is not a comeback. The new thing is the return of small attention. The new thing is the capacity to be fully present in a small moment without your mind also running a draft of an old conversation in the background. The new thing will not be announced. The new thing will arrive in tiny, ordinary ways. The way you sit with your nephew on the floor and build a city out of his blocks. The way you stay on the phone with your sister through the second half of her story instead of trying to wrap up the call. The way you sit with your own coffee on a Sunday morning and actually, fully, taste the coffee. Save this video for the morning your coffee actually tastes like coffee. That morning is the morning. Here is the moment nobody warns you about. The moment when you realize you no longer need them to know what they did. The moment when you realize that being fully witnessed by them is not the prize. The moment when you realize the prize is being fully witnessed by you. You spent years wanting them to feel the weight of what they did. You spent years wanting them to apologize in a way that matched the wound. You spent years rehearsing the moment they would finally see the cruelty for what it was, in front of someone, anywhere, in any room where any witness could see that you had been right all along. And then one morning, without warning, you realize you no longer need them to see it. Not because you have given up on being right. Because being right is no longer the point. Because the war is over. Because sitting at your own kitchen table on a quiet Tuesday morning, you realize that the witness you wanted all along was you. You were the witness. You have been the witness. The record is complete. The record is in your body, in your chest, in the quiet weight that sits behind your ribs when something is true. The record does not require their signature on the back. The record is signed. The record is you. And that is the most quietly enormous moment of the after. That is the moment you stop fighting for the verdict and you realize you already gave yourself the verdict in tiny, daily pieces every time you noticed the lie, every time you held the wound without winning it. Pin this to the top of your screen. The next part is the one that explains what the after feels like from the inside once you're standing in it. Here is what the after feels like from the inside once you're standing in it. It feels like a long, large room. A room that was, for a while, half warehouse, half courtroom, with strange lighting and an echo that wouldn't go away. And then one morning, you walk into the room, and you realize the courtroom has been dismantled. The chairs are folded. The lights are set to warmer. The echo is gone. The room is just a room. A room where you can sit with your coffee. A room where you can host a friend. A room where you can sit alone and read. A room where you can sit alone and not read. A room where you can sit alone and just for once, be alone without scanning the walls for the next war. The room was always a room. The room was never only a courtroom. You had been using the room as a courtroom for so long that you forgot the room could be other things. And now, slowly, the room is becoming other things again. The room is becoming a kitchen. The room is becoming a reading nook. The room is becoming a guest room for when your friend flies in for the weekend. The room is becoming a place where you hang the painting your cousin gave you, in the spot where the painting looks best, in the light that comes in through the east window in the morning. You are using the room for life. You are using the room for living. You are using the room for the small, ridiculous, ordinary things that make up an actual human life. You are using the room the way a whole person uses a room. And here is the strange grace of that. When the room is just a room, you become just a person, not a plaintiff, not a defendant, not a survivor, except in the small offhand way you would say it to a friend in passing. Just a person. Just a person in a room. Just a person with a kitchen and a bed and a Sunday morning. Just a person whose phone is in their pocket because they want it to be, not because they are waiting for the next message. Just a person whose life is, finally, allowed to be small. Bookmark this video for the morning. The room is just a room. That morning is yours. That morning has been yours the whole time. Let me close this with a quiet, honest rehearsal of what we have covered. The war in your head did not end when you left the relationship. The war lived inside your own consciousness for many months after. The war was, in the end, not a war against them. The war was a war against the version of you that did not have the perfect closing line. The war was costing you hours. The war was costing you sleep. The war was costing you attention. The war was costing you appetite for your own life. The war ended not with a verdict. The war ended with a tomato. The war ended with the morning you noticed, at a farmer's market, that you had been standing in the sun for 40 minutes without drafting anything in your head. The war ended with a slow notice. The war ended with a small victory. The war ended with a tomato and a paper bag, and a friend and a quiet Saturday, and the absence of an opening statement. You were never really fighting them. You were never really fighting anyone. You were, at the most basic level, fighting yourself. You were fighting the part of you that walked out of the kitchen 12 months ago without the perfect line. You were trying to go back in time and hand her the speech. You were trying to give her a courtroom. You were trying to give her what she never got, and the giving is finished, and the speech is finished, and the courtroom is closed, and the small you, the one who walked out without the perfect line, is standing, somewhere in the back of your memory, with a soft, surprised look on her face, because the larger you, the you of now, has just walked up to her and put a hand on her shoulder and said, "You don't need the speech. You did fine. You did better than fine. You did it without a speech, and that is, in the end, the bravest thing." And then you walked past her. And you kept walking. Toward the kitchen, toward the Sunday morning, toward the farm market in May, toward the friend, toward the peach, toward the room that is just a room now. And that was the day, and that was enough. If one person in this video reminded you of yourself, share it with them. Subscribe for more videos that speak the truth you need to hear.